Good afternoon. It's Thursday, July 16th, 2026, 1 p.m. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Rancho Mirage City Council and Community Services District, Energy Authority, Housing Authority, Joint Powers Finance Authority, Library and Observatory, and Redevelopment Successor Agency Boards. Would you please join me? Would you please join me in the salute of our flag? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Certainly. Councilmember Downs,
I'm here.
Councilmember Fromberg Edelstein. Here. Councilmember Weil,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem O'Keefe,
Here.
and Mayor Mulatto.
I am here. Next item on the agenda is presentations. This item is tabled for a later time. We will jump immediately to council member comments and reports, beginning with Councilmember Fromberg Edelstein, please.
No comments today, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Weil.
Thank you, Mayor. I hope a number of you, by the way, had an opportunity to see the fireworks display on January 4th. It was really sensational. We co-sponsored it with the Agua Caliente tribe. I think one of the features this year was having the drone exhibit. I mean, what a contribution that is when you can have displays of whether it be the flag, an eagle, or anything else in drones during the same exhibition. It was really sensational. Can I ask anyone in the audience, we have a decent sized audience, are there any veterans in the audience? If you are, would you stand up for a moment?
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. As a fellow veteran, I respect your service and I thank you for being here. My comments today, Mayor, are that one of Rancho Mirage's favorite summer traditions is almost here. The 2026 Taste of Summer Rancho Mirage returns July 23 through August 16, bringing together great dining, community support, and local savings. For just $10, purchase a Taste of Summer wristband from a participating nonprofit and enjoy special offers at participating Rancho Mirage restaurants. Every wristband sold benefits the nonprofit where it was purchased, including the Rancho Mirage Library and Observatory Foundation, helping support free educational programs, culture events, and life learning opportunities. More great news. The city is once again partnering with the Taste of Summer through Shop Local Rancho Mirage program. From July 22nd through August 16, purchase a Shop Local Rancho Mirage gift card and receive a 50% bonus to spend at participating restaurants through our buy one, get 50% bonus promotion. I can tell you, this particular promotion is requested regularly by our residents, and I'm so delighted that we can bring the opportunity again to our constituents. Because nearly every Taste of Summer restaurant also accepts the Shop Local Rancho Mirage gift card, you can combine both programs for even greater savings while supporting local businesses and nonprofits. Visit tasteofsummerranchomirage.com to view participating restaurants, special offers, and nonprofit organizations, and visit shoplocalranchomirage.com for details on the bonus gift card promotion. We hope you'll dine local, support local, and enjoy another fantastic Taste of Summer in Rancho Mirage. Thank you. Stay cool, stay hydrated, and enjoy the summer. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Steve Downs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Two things to speak to today. One of them has to do with our city's share of the cost to rebuild the I-10 Monroe Street interchange in Indio. And the second thing to speak to is an update on some crime rate statistics that we've talked about in the past. So first, on that interchange, so the Coachella Valley Association of Governments Transportation Committee met about a month ago, and I reported on this about 2 meetings ago. And in that meeting, the Transportation Committee discussed the methodology that they used to assign cost to the various cities to rebuild that interchange. It's a convoluted approach to cost sharing that CVAG had come up with. At least in my opinion, it was a convoluted approach to cost sharing. In any event, there's about $22 million that needs to be spread among the various cities and the county to build that interchange. The total cost is much greater than that, but there are other grants and so on that come to help build it. In any event, the share of that $22 million is spread between the cities and the county. And as a general rule, you would expect, and it does, it is the case that the share of cost depends on the proximity of the cities to that interchange. The closer you are to the interchange, the more your cost, and also population of the cities. The greater the population, the greater your cost. Well, I objected to the calculation that was presented to us at the Transportation Committee. And the reason I objected and voted no on it is because the Rancho Mirage share was estimated at about $600,000, while the La Quinta share was estimated at about $400,000. And I asked staff to explain to me how it's possible that a city with twice the population of ours and a city that is significantly closer to that interchange than ours, how could it be the case that there's such a disparity in our costs? And there were no such disparities between the other cities. Now, I wasn't alone. It was a collaborative effort to discuss this issue. Mayor Mulatto discussed it at the CVAG Executive Committee. Councilmember Weil discussed this issue at the CVAG Finance Committee, and our city manager, Isaiah Hagerman, discussed it at a CVAG staff and city managers meeting. And so here's the result. About a week after that Transportation Committee meeting and about a week or so after the city managers meeting with staff and the other city managers, CVAG communicated with us and said, you know what, we made a mistake. There was an error in our calculation. So our cost is dropping. It's reducing from about $600,000 to about $530,000. I'm still not quite happy with that. I still think that there's an error in their calculations. There were slight changes in some of the other cities' costs. La Quinta's cost went to where it should be, above ours. But in any event, we were able to save about $70,000 in our ultimate share of that cost to build that interchange. It's important to build that interchange. I'm not objecting to the rebuild of that interchange. It's an important thing to do. It is the #1 road project with CVAG. It has been for years, so it's important to do. My only issue was our cost, and I don't think it was fair, and I think we're being treated a little more fairly today. Now, the second thing that I wanted to talk to today is to provide an update on some property crime statistics that we presented in the past. Now, in recent years, we've increased the number of deputies that patrol our streets. We've also provided those deputies with added tools and technology to keep the city safe. And so we've reviewed these results in the past. And let's put up that first chart, if you will. Thank you. So we've reviewed these numbers in the past. And so here's how the property crime rate in the city of Rancho Mirage has declined over the years since 2021. 2021 to 2022, down 13%. 22 to 23, down 15%. 23 to 24 down 27%, 24 to 25 down 23%. And now we have an update on the first quarter of 2026 versus 2025, and we continue to have double-digit declines in our property crime rate. The property crime rate, we can put up that next slide, if you will. The property crime rate in the first quarter of this year versus last continues to be down 16%. Now, I think some of you, at least certainly I do, I wonder how that compares with other cities. It's very, very difficult to come up with direct comparisons city to city. And so we haven't done that, and we won't do that. But I've done a Google search, and my Google search tells me that the property crime rate in the U.S., as many of you probably know, has been declining in recent years, so that's a good thing. So how do we compare? Well, a Google search will show you that the property crime rate in the U.S. was down about 12% between 2024 and 2025. In Rancho Mirage, one of the stats that I just showed you showed that our property crime rate was down 23% over the same time frame. Thank you. So I think we're doing a pretty good job keeping the city safe. And there are a couple of people in the room that I do want to recognize today who do keep our city safe, from CAL FIRE and from the Sheriff's Department. So the chief from CAL FIRE is with us today. Thank you, Chief Wright, for being with us today. And our lieutenant who runs the team that keeps us safe from the Sheriff's Department is here today. Lieutenant Turnus, please say hello to the lieutenant. Thank you, everybody. Thanks to the two of you for keeping us safe. Thanks to your teams, and thank you for my time today, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to point out that if you exit the freeway going south on Bob Hope, you're going to notice that we have a new dedicated right turn lane onto Ramon. And if you've been there during the morning traffic, you know that it eases that traffic congestion tremendously. And if you drive on Ramon Road or Dinah Shore Road, I hope you notice the new sand fencing that minimizes the sand blowing across the streets. If you're driving there during a windy time, you know what I mean. It consolidates and accumulates on those road. It's terrible. Anyway, so now I'm not exactly sure how sand fencing works, but it mitigates all that sand blowing across the street. So I want to say this is a good job by our Public Works Department, and I want everybody to know this is your tax dollars at work. I've lived in the Valley for many years, and don't hate me, but I like the summers. It's a little bit slower, a little calmer, but I like to point out that it is not pleasant for people who are homeless or housing insecure. In fact, it's absolutely brutal, and for people that have very few options. So if you're so inclined, please consider right now donating either your money or your time or food or whatever supplies that you might have to your favorite shelters. There's several across the valley, the food shelters and the homeless shelters. And I hate to report this, but once again, the Coachella Valley Animal Shelter over in Thousand Palms is once again at more than 230% over capacity. In real terms, let me explain what that is. If you have a kennel that was built for one dog, you might have 3 or maybe 4. That's not healthy for the dogs. So the good news is that Bissell Pet Foundation is doing an Empty the Shelters event. It's a national event. And right now, adoptions are free through July 26th. And not only the adoption's free, but also the spaying and neutering is free. The vaccines are free. A microchip is free and an ID tag. So if you've been waiting for the right time to add a furry friend to your household, this is it. You can get the details at rcdas.org or just look at the animal shelter for Riverside County. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I have a few announcements today. I'd like to start out with recognizing Mr. Dick Oliphant. Richard Oliphant was a past mayor, I think a couple of terms, in the city of Indian Wells, also responsible for the development of the Indian Wells Tennis Gardens, and close to our hearts, the Children's Discovery Museum. Mr. Oliphant passed away a couple of days ago. We wish his family, his wife Jan, peace and our good thoughts. They're a wonderful family, and they've contributed for decades here in the Coachella Valley. In recent weeks, I've had the pleasure of visiting our 55 and over residents at our city's senior housing development. This is something that our council members do throughout the year. This year, Council Member E. Fromberg-Edelstein and myself have been visiting our seniors, and the last couple of weeks, we visited Santa Rosa Villas, San Jacinto Villas, Parkview Villas, and Whispering Waters, and we were discussing the various resources and services that might be available to them. And why is that? Because our seniors are stating with inflation costs and cuts in Medicare subsidies and rising costs in medications, it's tight. It's very, very tight. So we're trying to help them save a few nickels and keep them in their pockets. And I want to thank our city's sustainability department. Jessica and Jess went out to talk about how they can save on their energy bills, what we can do to help them. We had hoped to have Southern California Edison out for those presentations at that time. However, they have a new rep. That rep will be coming in the weeks to come. The second area where we could have help to them is with Sunline Transit. With those cuts in Medicare, their subsidies used to help pay for rides one way to a doctor's office, and then they'd be charged again for the ride home. Some of those subsidies are not covering those rides. So I brought out Sunline Transit. We had 4 lovely ladies that came out. Some gave bilingual presentations. It was wonderful. And these seniors had no idea the programs that were available to them, or if they were familiar with certain programs, they realized that they were revitalized and they were able to take participation in those programs and got their applications filled out. I'd like to thank our Housing Authority Director, Marcus Alleman, for setting that up. And it's just been a wonderful year of interacting with our seniors. Last item I'd like to bring to your attention in today's Los Angeles Times. A big congratulations. The city of Rancho Mirage was mentioned in the 11 enchanting places to see outdoor theater in Southern California. So congratulations to Ray Limon, our artistic director, and Joshua Carr, managing director of Desert Theatricals, for all the presentations that they provide at our Rancho Mirage amphitheater, and also to our marketing department and special events. And with that, I will close that part of it. And now we're going to go on to city manager comments.
None today, Madam Mayor.
Very good. Shall we move on to consent?
Yeah, so the City Council has 5 items on the consent calendar for consideration, items 5A through 5E. Item 5A is to waive the full reading of any ordinance introduced or adopted pursuant to this agenda. Item 5B is to approve the June 18th, 2026 regular City Council meeting minutes. Item 5C is to adopt a resolution number 2026, next in order, approving the Rancho Mirage Energy Authority 2026 Integrated Resource Plan. Item 5D are the contracts, and 5E are demands. Before we go to council comments or questions on the consent calendar, I'll ask the city clerk to take any public comment on the consent calendar.
I have received no requests for public comments on the consent calendar.
Are there any council discussions or comments?
Move to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Please vote.
Bear with me 1 second. There you go. You should see your vote screen. And motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item on the agenda is public hearings. And thank you all for being here. It's vitally important to have the public's input and participation in our public hearings, and we always welcome and invite your comments. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Before we move forward, due to Councilmember Wiles' residence being within 500 feet from a preferred site identified in the item before council, he's recusing himself due to a conflict of interest in accordance with Title II, Division 6 of California Code of Regulations, referred to as the FPPC regulations, Section 18702.2, because there's a reasonably foreseeable financial effect on the city's decision on a parcel of real property in which the council member has a financial interest. Additionally, Mayor Pro Tem O'Keefe and Councilmember Fromberg Edelstein's residences are respectively approximately 567 feet and 715 feet from a preferred site identified in the item before council. After a review of applicable conflict of interest codes, including without limitation FPPC regulations section 18702.2 and the factors prescribed in subsection A8 of the same regulation, Mayor Pro Tem O'Keefe and Fromberg Edelstein are each recusing themselves due to disqualifying conflict of interest, resulting from a reasonably foreseeable effect on the instant decision on real property in which each respective official has a financial interest, because the decision has a potential to change the respective council member's parcel's character by substantially altering view, privacy, and market value. However, because the two remaining council members do not constitute a quorum for the city council to deliberate and take action on this item, the council may proceed pursuant to the legally required participation exception in accordance with Government Code Section 87101 and FPPC Regulations Section 18705, because there is no alternative source of decision and that the final action rests with the city council, and 3 council members are required to establish a quorum in order for the council to act on the item. Moreover, the designation of the preferred sites is currently being considered as a comprehensive plan in coordination with the zoning text amendment, which provides for the streamlining and entitlement process for certain wireless communications facilities at such designated preferred sites, and in coordination with the previously adopted wireless master plan. The zoning text amendment is inextricably interrelated to the preferred site designation because the modifying the location of the preferred sites may impact the zoning text amendment regulations. Additionally, a conflicted council member's participation in the non-conflicted preferred site or sites may address findings or justifications about needed coverage, the number and location of sites needed, and may be used to later revisit a conflicted site. In accordance with Section 18705 of the FPPC regulations, under these circumstances, the City Council may bring back one official with a disqualifying interest through a random means of selection in order to reach a quorum so that the City Council may hear the item and take action. One such recognized random means of selection is through the drawing of straws. Accordingly, the 3 conflicted council members will each draw straws to determine which member shall participate in the decision. The council members shall each take a turn drawing straws from the city clerk in front of the public. The council member drawing the short straw will be allowed to participate, and that member shall participate for the duration of the proceedings in all related matters until the participation is no longer legally required or the need for invoking the exception no longer exists. Then the remaining 2 conflicted members will leave the chambers during deliberation and vote and may return upon conclusion of final action by the city council on this item. Now we'll have the city clerk assist us in drawing straws with the 3 conflicted members.
Thank you. Yes, so the 3 who have the potential recusals to step over here near me, I have the straws ready.
And yes, believe it or not, this is actually a legally acceptable method for
Only the highest in
establishing the quorum.
technology.
Out of here.
I don't know who wants to go first, but
Ladies, I knew they were going to do that.
so Mayor Pro Tem O'Keefe has the shorter straw, so he will stay and participate. The other 2 will leave the chamber.
You're finally tall.
Can't lose these.
I would hate to have drawn the straws.
Thank you.
Yes.
No. It's gonna be okay.
And with that, again, for the record, Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem O'Keefe has been randomly selected to participate under the legally required participation procedures in accordance with FPPC Regulation 18705 and declares again for the record that he has a conflict of interest due to his personal residence being more than 500 feet but less than 1,000 feet from a preferred site, and the decision has a potential to change the respective council member parcel's character by substantially altering view, privacy, and/or market value. With that, unless there's any questions for myself, I'll turn this over to Ben to present the item.
We'll give it a second for the presentation to pull up here. So good afternoon, Mayor and City Council members. Rancho Mirage offers an exceptional quality of life with breathtaking mountain views and world-class amenities. However, these same features create significant challenge for wireless cellular coverage. The city's low population density, limited vertical assets, and surrounding mountains present significant barriers to reliable service. The city's composition and land use patterns directly impact coverage challenges, with the majority of the city designated for residential uses and open space with mountainous and conservation lands with limited development potential. As part of the request, the city is proactively planning on ways to improve overall coverage in the city. Before we get into discussing the project, I wanted to give some background on the multi-year process that got us to this point. On July 18th, 2024, the City Council authorized an agreement with Cell Plant Technologies to develop a comprehensive wireless master plan, which was in response to coverage issues. A few months later, on March 6, 2025, the City Council received and filed the wireless master plan, which contained key data and recommendations on improving cellular coverage. Then, on June 5th, 2025, the City Council adopted revisions to the municipal code, which streamlined the permitting process for wireless communication facilities and implemented actions from the wireless master plan to streamline the permitting process and reduce barriers to entitlement. Today's item is a direct implication of the wireless master plan, specifically the recommendation to streamline the entitlement, the permitting process, and to develop a list of pre-approved sites. Key findings from the wireless master plan showed major deficiencies in the existing infrastructure of the three leading mobile network operators. To ensure adequate coverage, each carrier should operate at least 12 traditional cell sites. However, in Rancho Mirage, each carrier currently maintains only 4 to 6 sites. This results in poor signal quality, reduced data speeds, and overall capacity limitations. From the data gathered from the wireless master plan, the following maps were created. Residents are able to access this data on the city's website. This side-by-side comparison shows the 3 major carriers' real-world coverage specific to Rancho Mirage. On the map, the green represents excellent coverage, yellow is good, and the red shows where coverage gaps exist. No specific project is proposed at the identified sites as part of this zoning text amendment. The purpose of the amendment is to streamline the permitting process, with a staff level review for up to 25 sites with a monopalm at a maximum height of 81 feet with up to 3 carriers. It is worthwhile to note that there are currently wireless facilities operating at these heights. The designated locations include properties identified in the wireless master plan and city or housing authority owned properties. I do want to note that this does not mean that 25 monopalms at the maximum height will be built. The current proposal allows for flexibility in facility placement, and the maximum height allows in flexibility to support up to 3 carriers on the monopalm where needed. The data contained in the wireless master plan has already been shared with the wireless carriers as well. A key change in the proposed ordinance is to allow for a staff level review for the identified properties that meet the criteria. A staff level review is not an over-the-counter approval. An application is submitted with detailed plans on specific location, including photo simulations, elevations, site plans, and landscape plans. Review is subject to the standards contained in Rancho Mirage Municipal Code, Chapter 17.32, which requires a stealth design. Written findings for approval have to be made in order to support a proposal. And then staff has the ability to require a public hearing if a proposal does not fit the parameters set. As part of the proposal, typical plans are provided to represent what a 2/1 carrier monopalm could look like, as shown on the screen. These are typical plans showing what a 3 carrier design could also look like. In this example, each antenna center is separated by 15 feet. This is an example of a monopalm at Fire Station 50 by Highway 111. In the photographs, you can see the adjacent palm trees, which help screen the monopalm from the surrounding area, and the stealth features around the antennas. As previously mentioned, up to 25 locations have been identified. On the current and following aerial views, the locations identified in blue are private property, and the locations shown in green are City of Rancho Mirage or Housing Authority-owned properties. This current view is from the northern part of the city. Locations shown in blue are the Weston and the Rancho Mirage Marketplace. City-owned properties include the Rancho Mirage Dog Park and Fire Station 69. Along the Highway 111 corridor, we have the Rancho Mirage Library, the Rancho Mirage Community Park, and 3 city-owned affordable housing properties. On the right is Fire Station 50, which already has a Verizon and AT&T monopalm that is finishing up construction. To the left, we have City Hall, Wolfson Park, Santa Rosa Villas. The blue property identified is Camera West, which is located near the intersection of Highway 111 and Peterson Road. And then on the right of the screen is Palm Valley School, shown in blue. The property identified in an orange color will be discussed further on the next slide. One of the preferred locations identified, located at the northeast corner of Frank Sinatra Drive and Duval Drive, currently consists of 4 separate parcels. This location, shown in orange, is proposed to be removed as part of the recommended action 2B, which has been provided based on public input received. If this preferred location is excluded, any future proposals for wireless communication facilities proposed on an excluded property can only be considered through the city's standard entitlement process. Various methods to inform the public of this item were taken, which includes mailing over 2,000 public hearing notices to property owners within a 500-foot radius of these identified locations. A total of 19 written public comments were received for the city council meeting. The public hearing notice was also posted on various city locations and published in the Desert Sun as well. This ordinance is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15303 and 15332. And then on June 25th, 2026, the Planning Commission conducted a duly noticed public hearing to adopt resolution number 2026 PC01, recommending approval of the proposed amendments. Staff recommends that the City Council take the following actions shown on the screen and select option 2B, which removes the 4 parcels located at the northeast corner of Frank Sinatra Drive and Duval Drive from the list of designated preferred locations. That concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Did you want to say anything?
Thank you. So now is the appropriate time for public testimony on public hearing item 6A. The first speaker is Art Williams.
Please come up to the podium. Thank you. Yes, perfect.
Hello,
Good afternoon.
my name is Art Williams. I live in the community of St. Augustine. And I have actually one question that probably can't be answered now about Palm Valley School. Anybody know what's happening with Palm Valley School? Not at this point. The thing is, there's already a tower there on the premises. So a second tower next to it would not be a problem. If it were located elsewhere on the property, we paid premium prices to have our southernmost wall, which overlooks the school, to have a pretty nice panoramic view. So there's already one in the middle of the school. If a second one were to be added, it would be no harm, but hopefully there would not be another one added anywhere else on the property if that was the chosen property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Adair Fell.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. I'm a resident of 7013, Frank Sinatra Drive. And my community is very close to the property at Frank Sinatra and Duval Drive. And first, I wanted to commend the staff for their recommendation that this property be removed due to its closeness to private property. and that we are supporting that you do that and hope that you do that. And thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Natasha Tannenbaum.
Good afternoon.
My name is Natasha Tannenbaum, and my husband Gary and I are proud residents of Magnesia Falls Cove. We're here today as concerned residents, and we respectfully ask you to vote no on the zoning amendment. Our greatest concern is the potential long-term health impacts of placing these wireless facilities in residential neighbourhoods. Thousands of peer-reviewed studies have raised concern about the long-term health effects of radiofrequency radiation, including links to oxidative stress, DNA damage, neurological effects, and even cancers. Because children are more vulnerable during critical stages of brain and body development, we believe we have a responsibility to ensure these facilities are not placed near residential neighbourhoods or schools. Even the US Department of Health and Human Services has recently launched a new federal study into the health effects of wireless radiation. If our nation's leading public agency believes this issue deserves renewed scientific investigation, that should be reason enough for our city to exercise caution. But there's another question that hasn't been answered. Exactly what problem are we trying to solve? In Magnesia Falls Cove, we already have excellent cell coverage. We don't experience drop calls or poor reception. If there truly is a coverage problem in somewhere in Rancho Mirage, we support fixing it. But first, prove there is a problem. Why not survey every resident and every business before changing our zoning laws? Ask the people who actually live and work here where they experience dropped calls or poor reception. Attorney Robert Berg, who has represented communities in wireless infrastructure cases, has warned that wireless companies sometimes claim coverage gaps that don't match the FCC's national broadband map. If there are legitimate coverage gaps in Rancho Mirage, let's verify them with objective evidence and with real-world experience of our residents before approving more towers. Finally, the ordinance would allow many future wireless facilities to be approved by city staff instead of requiring a public hearing before the Planning Commission. Today, we're fortunate to have a public hearing, but if this ordinance passes, many future wireless facilities could be approved by city staff without even coming back before the Planning Committee for public comment. Progress should never come at the expense of public health or our community's voice. Please preserve the public's voice, require proof of these towers, that these towers are actually needed, and vote no on this ordinance. We do not want a cell tower radiating on our homes 24/7. So please take that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary Tannenbaum. Gary Tannenbaum.
Yes, I'm the husband of Natasha, and I'm just going to reiterate what she said, basically. But my main question: has there ever been a survey for the need? I mean, I see the charts that you showed, but we've been living here for 10 years, and we've never had a problem with cell phone coverage. So, are we addressing a problem that exists, or I'm at a loss?
We can summarize after public testimony. So continue with your comment, and then after public testimony, we will address the items that are brought up.
All right, so, like I say, we really hope that you keep it out of our neighborhood because there's no need for it, and we certainly don't want them.
Thank you.
Michael Silver.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I gave that sticker to the right person, I guess. My name is Michael Silver. I represent the Silver Family Trust. We own property, I guess, in the Camera West neighborhood. My question to you is, do you know what our neighborhood is called? We live in the boundaries below Thunderbird of U Road, Estates Road, and Bird Lane and Thunder. These were all areas that were developed in the 1960s to bring residents who were going to be working in Eisenhower. We've owned the two properties since 2004. The properties were built by Ted and Judy Martinez, who built 3 properties in that neighborhood after they were downsized to only allow 2 units per parcel. That has made it, in the 16 parcels in that neighborhood, unbuildable because there are septic tanks and no sewers. I do not think that this is the best and the highest use for these properties to put cell phone towers. I have petitioned people in the neighborhood. The problem is everything was sent to owners and not to the tenants in the neighborhood. We are not opposed to building in that neighborhood. I ask that the neighborhood be given a development plan which allows for higher density residential, low income, moderate income senior housing to go in there. There hasn't been an approval on a property since 1985. And there is a reason that that land goes unused, because there have been petition after petition after petition to build on that, and it has been rejected, to my knowledge, by the city of Rancho Mirage. I ask that you review this neighborhood, look at the potential for putting in housing. We need housing, not cell phone towers. The residents that are mostly tenants ask for housing, not cell phone towers. Please consider reviewing these properties and putting them to their highest and best use. I love Rancho Mirage. I've lived here for over 40 years. I want the city to have cell phone coverage, but I want to consider and do not approve this because land that is considered unbuildable is not. And I ask that you consider development of the area as opposed to allowing zoning regulations to be downsized again, which will mean no development in that neighborhood, in our neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Todd Spitzer.
Good afternoon.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, my name is Todd Spitzer. I'm not a resident of your city. I'm a resident of Monterey Country Club, but I'm a victim in my view shed, and I'll get into that momentarily, about a very poor handling of the cell phone tower on Monterey, just near Hoveley. That's on the border of your city and the city of Palm Desert, where I live. I'm here today to speak out against this ordinance. It is incredibly offensive that elected officials, and I've been an elected official for 35 years in my county. It's offensive to me that elected officials would delegate their most important oversight function to unelected bureaucrats. And I don't mean any disrespect to Mr. Gomez, who I worked with for more than 2 years on the cell phone tower on Monterey, or Mr. Hagerman, who was very kind to meet with me in person. They're very professional, and you're very, very lucky to have them. But what your city attorney said is very important on the recusal motion. He said that Mayor Pro Tem O'Keefe would have to participate in the straw polling event because of the view shed, the market value, and the privacy that could detrimentally affect his property. So why in the world, if it could potentially recuse 2 council members and one who is here not by choice necessarily, but by necessity in order to have a quorum, while the rest of us suffer from the decisions of bureaucrats? So I just want to show you, if you go back, and I don't know, and I apologize, who was on the council in February of 2023. That was a conditional use permit by AT&T to build a cell phone tower of Monterey. They promise falsities. They promise renderings of what these towers are going to look like. This was the rendering in the staff report for the conditional use permit. It looks innocuous. when you actually see what they produced, it's obscene and offensive to the eye. Your ordinance, which is Municipal Code Section 17.32.090, requires that you cannot discern the presence of wireless communications antenna or antenna array on the project site. Mr. Gomez's presentation absolutely showed you can absolutely discern and not discern, quite frankly, the fact that you can see the cell phone towers. AT&T came here and told you my tower across the street from my house would be built in 6 months. It took 2 years. Because of my elected official status and my presence in the community, I met with AT&T. They would meet with me. I met with Southern California Edison, where the tower is erected. I met with your city manager. Because of my elected status, I was able to really have some influence on getting that tower fixed. These poor people don't have the same influence we do as elected officials. Please do not abdicate your elected responsibility to allow us to have redress if we object to these projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brad Anderson. Brad Anderson.
Good afternoon, Brad Anderson, City of Rancho Mirage. Can't top that. I am in opposition to this Measure 2 or this public hearing item. I did write some comments and submit them. Same with the Planning Commission when they went through that show or that event. I just wanted to bring a couple for the record type. Now, I understand that 2 of the council members lives in the same community of Del Rev right now. So one of the council members may not have the 500-foot radius, but they're in the same development. That should pose an issue for later on too. And even I never read any about the straw thing in the staff report, but it's all premature. It shouldn't even be performed at this juncture. And of course, I'm against city staff or city manager having this type of authority. And I can understand because the city, a lot of people may not know this, but this is how the city operates now. They have the city manager more or less. For example, construction sites that are completed, they used to come to city council. They don't anymore, unless the city manager decides they do. And we're talking about $1 million highway programs or projects. So the public is left out of that aspect too. They cannot comment on a completion project. And the same with this. We had outcry from a certain democratic of people in a certain area, and the city apparently listened to that and made corrections. But maybe the other people are out of the state right now or out of town, and they are not able to perform at this meeting like these people did. So I'm just picking that out of the air, but it's these projects need to come to city council when they come to city council, when the permit's pulled, when the contractor's in line, and not before or ever in this situation. So I'm just opposed to this type of giving authority away and then having the city council whittled down to a certain number now on something that may not even happen. So I think I hit all my spots. So hopefully you can read my comments about the Planning Commission. Public comments were taken there too, but they were rejected by one person because they came in late. So the public needs to be involved. Thank you.
Steve Jobson. Steve Jobson.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Steve Jobson, and I reside at Tamarisk Gardens. And I was at the June 25th Planning Commission meeting, and I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge Planning Commissioner Chair Murray Bryant. Mr. Bryant personally took the time to drive around to all the proposed monopalm cell tower locations, and he gave us his thoughts. In particular, he spoke of the Palm Valley School location on Duval and how important it was to him that no monopalms were placed near the property perimeters so as not to disturb neighboring residences. And as far as the Duval Frank Sinatra location, he told us that if he could vote, he would vote no on this location, and the Wolfson Park location would be a far better choice. I was impressed, and I feel he is an asset to Rancho Mirage. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The next speaker is identified solely as iPhone. If you can unmute yourself and state your name, please.
My name is Angela Cervantes. I'm the owner of Catalan Spanish Mediterranean restaurant located there at 70026 Highway 111. My mother is a resident at the Blue Skies mobile home park. She's disabled and sick with stage 4 cancer. The reason I come to this council meeting is because I understand and I respect everyone else's voice and opinions about cellular towers being located near their homes and such, and the fear of being eradicated or like involved with radioactive radiation vibes from a cellular tower. However, the problem with not having a cellular tower where cell phones, whether it be Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, being established, is the mere fact that between Frank Sinatra and all the way to the river in Palm Springs, there is zero cellular activity or availability. I do know that in 2029, somehow on your council or city planning, the copper landlines are going to be removed, which removes landline service. And the whole entirety of why I come onto this meeting is because 2 days ago, my mother, who lives off of Peterson Road, just a quarter mile from Frank Sinatra, did not receive a single phone call from either one of her oncologists who is at Eisenhower and at UC San Diego, myself or my sister who live locally. And she had to be admitted to the hospital at Eisenhower, to which she also did not receive cellular Wi-Fi, cellular connection. I, owning Catalan Spanish Mediterranean restaurant, also struggle with the whole cellular annihilation that all of my guests have to log into a Wi-Fi. And I feel that for the majority of the residents in Rancho Mirage are elderly, seasoned humans. A lot have health issues, are disabled, and not having at least one palm tree looking cellular tower placed in the middle, somewhere away, mostly away from communities, which I respect, but to provide some sort of cellular phone connectivity for emergencies is highly viable and necessary, because if it wasn't for a third party getting involved 2 days ago to contact my mother through a third party on a conference call, my mother could have died in her home off Peterson Road, two street lights away from my restaurant.
I'm sorry to interrupt, ma'am. You'll need to wrap up your comments. Your 3 minutes has expired. What you have to say is important, but I need you to wrap it up if you would, please.
Okay, I'll wrap it up in short and sweet. I'm not going to sugarcoat nothing, and I don't mean to come off viable, but one palm tree cell tower in the middle between Frank Sinatra and the river is necessary for our loved ones, because when the landline coppers are removed in 2029, which your council approved, there will be no health communication that our loved ones or either one of you in that room can have accessibility to.
Thank you for your
So-
comments, ma'am. We need to move on to the next speaker. I'm terribly sorry.
Next speaker is Robert Watkins. You can unmute yourself, please.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Hello. As it stands, this council must approve the construction of new wireless community facility towers under city code. The proposal in front of the council today drastically changes that standard. Instead of council approval of such towers and what the ordinance calls preferred sites, this decision will instead be delegated to the Director of Development Services, an unelected city employee. The director is not elected, and neither is her boss and appointer, the city manager. Therefore, this council would be punting its authority to a city employee that has 2 degrees of separation from any elected official or body. The proposal attempts to address this issue by stating that the director may refer an application to the Planning Commission if she finds that the application presents unique impacts. There are 2 critical flaws with this proposal. First, the issue of whether an application for a cell tower presents unique impacts is left solely to the discretion of the director. She is not required to hold hearings, collect opinions from residents of the area, or allow for any type of public input on the application. The decision is hers and hers alone. Second, even if the director does find that unique impacts are presented by the application, she is under no duty to actually refer the matter to the commission, as the ordinance only states that she may refer the matter. The issue of the construction of cell towers in Rancho Mirage is of high importance to its residents, as we've heard today. The placement of towers can impact mountain views, aesthetics, and most importantly, property values. Public input on the placement of these facilities is critical. Those of us who are opposed to this ordinance are reasonable people who are also frustrated when our phones don't work. We are not opposed to the construction of these towers. However, the decision-making process as to where they're located needs to be handled in a measured and transparent manner with public hearings before this council, culminating in a public vote. I therefore ask that the council not pass this ordinance today. However, if the council decides to disregard all of the opposition it is hearing and has read today and instead decides to go forward with passing this ordinance, it should pass proposal 2B instead of 2A. At the Planning Commission hearing, which I attended, there was a great deal of discussion specifically regarding the parcels of land located at the northeast corner of Frank Sinatra and Duval. The residents voiced strong opposition to these parcels being considered a preferred site under this ordinance, and the commission itself also seemed uneasy with such a designation. Further, Wolfson Park at the same exact intersection would remain a preferred site under 2B, which is a much more suitable location for a monopalm than the northeast parcels. Therefore, due to significant community opposition and the presence of a perfectly fine solution being right across the street, I urge the council to pass proposal 2B if it is moving forward with passing this ordinance today. However, I maintain that the entire ordinance is faulty from the start and an unacceptable surrender of power from this council and ultimately the residents of this city. It's rare that the relinquishment of power from the people has ever resulted in something good for a jurisdiction. This matter should be sent back to the drawing board to preserve public input, representation, and a local democratic process in a world in which the democratic process is under fire. Thank you.
Wayne Avershow.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor. How are you? Hope all is well. I honestly salute the council, Mr. O'Keefe, for moving this forward, but I think this is flawed, as we've heard. Mr. Spitzer was a little modest. He's a Orange County District Attorney, and he was a former county supervisor. As many of you know, my first job was at Los Angeles City Hall. I'm pretty familiar with ordinances. This ordinance it's subjective. It puts a burden, if you will, on one person, the planning director, as opposed to the decision makers, the city council. This is a sensitive matter. To approve an 81-foot tower, something similar, near residential uses without a full public hearing before the commission and the city council is a dereliction. It's a dereliction of duties. So it's well-intentioned. We need more cell towers. We do. But to have a subjective, right now the director could refer to the commission under, quote, unique impacts. Unique impacts. What does that mean? That means 10 different things to 10 different people. It should be any subjective standard, such as height, proximity, the bells are tolling, proximity to sensitive uses such as residential, should go right to the commission. It should not be, one person should not make this decision. It just can't be. It's a sensitive matter. We need better coverage. We do, and I thank Mr. O'Keefe for working on this, but this ordinance is flawed. This, again, 2 subjective, unique impacts, 1 person. These decisions should be made by the city council, and everybody here should have a right to address and redress their public officials. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I see no additional requests to speak.
Madam Mayor, may I take a few minutes to address a few points?
Absolutely.
Could I have my PowerPoint, please?
You may want to turn your volume up just a little bit, if at all possible.
I just wanted to take a few moments to clarify a few items and use a couple of examples of how staff evaluates a project.
I think it would be helpful. Thank you.
Yes. I won't read all this, but as Ben mentioned, this ZTA is a direct implementation of the wireless master plan that has been in progress since 2024. But being a site on this list isn't a rubber stamp. Each one still goes through a location-specific evaluation, and some of the factors that staff looks at and evaluates with every proposal are setbacks, character of surrounding land, height relative to context, meaning is the location appropriate, and the design and screening. The next 2 slides show how this framework applied to 2 different existing locations. So the first example I'll go through is Fire Station 50. This site works because of the placement and the heights that were approved. There are currently 2 monopalms. One is still under construction, as you can see in one of the photos. That's an AT&T tower, and the second is a Verizon tower. Both of those are 60 feet to the top of the fronds. Given that the location was adjacent to residential properties, a lower height was utilized on both of these cellular facilities. The analysis included meeting with the HOA and increasing the noticing to 1,000 feet from 500, in addition to ensuring all municipal requirements were met. Another example of a higher tower is the Children's Discovery Museum. This tower is 75 feet to the top of the fronds. Staff's analysis for this tower included the setbacks, the location being in the back of the museum property, and the vacant land that was surrounding. So an increase in height would not cause impacts. These are just examples of some of the characters that staff looks at in every proposal, and these would also be evaluated for any application that would come forth in the future with these preferred sites.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, Mayor, one, I appreciate everybody's comments today. Obviously, one of the dynamics that we suffer from is a lack of cell phone towers being built. So our process has been the same for a very long time, and that has resulted in a very poor build rate. Some of the reasons for that very poor build rate is the time and money it takes to go through the public hearing process. And so when we commissioned the wireless master plan, we hired an independent consultant, and they did everything from reading cellular coverage by driving every city street and putting that into those GIS maps. So dependent on who your carrier is, you may have excellent coverage. If you have a different carrier, maybe you have poor coverage. And that was part of kind of just informing the public of, hey, if you live in this area, maybe there's a carrier that has better coverage than the one that you have. But ultimately, we don't benefit from areas like, say, Orange County. They don't have problem getting these wireless facilities because of the amount of people that are there. They don't have a low density land use pattern like we do out here. And so, obviously there is a new approach being proposed based off of what was recommended from independent consultants to make it easier on specific sites to build these facilities. You know, kind of what Mina was demonstrating is obviously staff attempts to do the best that they can at their job and the best for the residents of this community. And in those two examples of cell phone towers, there was one that was very tall, and that was at the Children's Discovery Museum. However, due to the size of that property and tucking it back at the end of the property, you know, that was allowed to be a little bit taller. Versus the example on Highway 111 next to our fire station, right? That one was shorter due to the dynamics of being that close to residential communities. And even beyond that, staff, obviously through our normal process, if it's adjacent to a community like that or residential properties, we do specifically reach out to those properties and the HOA to get approvals letters. So none of that stuff changes if this goes through. There still is a thoughtful analysis. You know, a speaker today brought up Palm Valley. And Palm Valley obviously is about a 36-acre campus. And if a cell phone carrier wanted to come and put a very tall tower right on a property line with a residential community, staff simply would not allow that, right? That site is big enough to thoughtfully place a cell phone tower. You know, another site is the West End, right? Coming and putting it right on the border of maybe Mission Hills would not be accepted by staff. There is a process that staff goes through when somebody comes in, even if a carrier wanted something like that, that's not something that the analysis would allow us to do, and nor would we do it as staff. You know, obviously there's a degree of people's thoughts that this should just stay with the council, and I'll let the council make that decision. Staff has no opinion on that. But we do suffer from entitling cell phone towers and then never being built. And what we heard through the wireless master plan, it's due to the way that the carriers allocate funding. When they have a very long process to go through, then they have limited funding, and our towers get skipped. So the point of this was to prompt an easier pathway for a cell phone tower on very specific parcels where you could potentially allow them. Now, you know, the example of the area of Frank Sinatra Duval, right? You could potentially see a smaller cell phone tower there, but at the end of the day, right, from a staff perspective, hearing from the community through these public comments, it made sense, right? We don't want to negatively impact people's properties or their values. So that was a pretty simple one to say, yeah, we have Wolfson Park right across the street. You know, we can remove that and go through the normal process. For the Thunder Road area, I know it's not really on our topic today, but it was talked about housing densities, right? That the council actually approved the affordable housing overlay over that area. So that exists today. The city doesn't build that. Somebody would have to come build that, but it is entitled for very dense affordable housing in that area. The city is legally not allowed to consider health impacts, unfortunately. So that's something the council cannot do. We also have no jurisdiction over school grounds. So we have two public schools within our jurisdiction. They both have existing wireless facilities, and that process does not flow through the city council or the city's process. That goes directly to the school district and to the school board. So we have no jurisdiction over school property when it comes to these wireless facilities. Let me just go through my notes really quick. The Mag Falls area. Ben, can you pull up the map that shows Whispering Waters?
Yes, 1 second. Whispering Waters is at the bottom left side of the screen.
Okay. So Thank you, Ben. So Ben's highlighting that parcel. That's an affordable housing property. And, that would be another property that would be probably pretty tough to actually even fit a wireless facility there. And I know we have several comment letters and some speakers from this area. Frankly, from a staff perspective, I could understand from their viewpoint, they're seeing a city code that says it could be up to 81 feet. And we can kind of sit here all day long and I can say, hey, staff wouldn't allow that. But at the end of the day, it is in the code. And somebody could always point back and say, yeah, but it's in the code. And it is a staff level review. From the council's perspective, that's another one of those sites that kind of meets the criteria of the Frank Sinatra and Duvall in my viewpoint. So that could be one if the council wanted to consider that, where I think that you could remove that one because frankly, from my perspective, I don't see a facility being able to develop there anyways. And at the end of the day, right, not every site is going to have a cell phone tower develop. And there are some sites that could accommodate that height, and we have this height in our city now, and you don't really notice them. And then there are other sites that could not. The point of this was not to be deceptive, but to allow for the flexibility to, again, help us streamline this process to be more attractive for investment. And so that was the motivation behind it, and I just wanted to state that. We do have the wireless master plan that goes into a lot of detail of a consultant who does this for a living, who is an expert. And these were one of the things they said makes a difference. And so I know the council has a tough job, and ultimately staff has no opinion on whether it's appropriate to delegate this to staff or not. But I can tell you if staff goes through a very thoughtful process, just like we have. And there are real examples within our community that I think that we can point to that shows how that process works out.
And Mayor, if I may, I just wanted to quickly expand on one comment the city manager made regarding RF emissions. As some of you may recall, and for the benefit of the public as well, under existing law, the city currently cannot consider the environmental effects of radio frequency emissions if a proposed wireless facility complies with FCC RC emissions regulations, and that's pursuant to 47 United States Code Section 332.
Are there any other I'm sorry, all my council members are this way. Council comments.
I kind of want to defer to Michael since he was part of the subcommittee that took a look at this, but I'll give Michael the last word, I suppose. This is a difficult issue for us to deal with. So we hear you. We understand that some of you do not want cell towers built next to your homes. I understand that. Neither do I. We also, on a very regular basis, multiple times monthly, get communications from homeowners who say, you've got to fix this cell phone problem in this city. And if you don't, we won't vote for you. Literally, we get messages that say exactly that. So we need to fix this cell phone problem, but we need to find a way to be sensitive to you as well. A couple of other things that I think are important. I appreciate the city attorney mentioning that issue about health. I understand and I appreciate your concern. We can't take that into account. I wish we could, but we can't. It's against the law. And I appreciate the city managers making the comment that I hope helps Mr. Silver to let you know that we did zone that area near that property that you're talking about for an overlay for affordable housing. So it's true, we did do that. So what do we do here? We did hire a company, Cell Plan, a very professional organization, to map the very specific 25 locations, the very specific locations where cell towers should be built so we can solve this problem in this city. It's not a haphazard issue about those locations that we selected. It was done very professionally and with technology behind the selection points. So it's not as though, as some of the letters we've received have said, why don't you do more studies about where you can build these towers? We already know these are the 25 locations where towers should be built. We know that for a certainty. So what do? Do we approve this or do we make some changes? I am in favor of making some changes. I am in favor of staff's recommendation today to remove that location at Frank Sinatra and DeVal. I am also in favor of removing Whispering Waters. So I believe those two locations should be removed. And with the removal of those two locations, I believe that we should approve the staff's ability to approve those locations, those 25 locations at the ministerial level. Those are my thoughts. I'm sorry if I can't do what all of you want us to do, but we have to weigh and we have to determine what's best for the entire city. And I can tell you that what we hear all of the time from residents is we must improve cell quality in this city. We have to do it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Madam Mayor.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Point of order. Point of order, please. Point of order. We appreciate the comments that you've shared with us. Please let our council, and I understand your passion for this. I really do. Thank you.
Michael, floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Please bear with me. I have quite a few comments that I'd like to make. First, I'd like to begin by saying I thank all of you for being here and for sharing your thoughts. The comments that we've heard today and the emails that we've got reflect how deeply people care about your neighborhoods and about the future of our city. I appreciate it, and I want you to know that I'm listening to what you say. Many of the concerns that you've raised are factual, and they deserve acknowledgement, and I sympathize with your concerns. For example, it is absolutely true that no one wants to live next to a cell phone tower. Many of you know that I have worked diligently over the last few years on trying to get more cell coverage in our city. I've met with groups and residents to discuss affordable housing and public safety, the power substation, the city budget. But I can tell you that the conversation always circles back to what are you doing about cell coverage? When I ask a room full of people how many want reliable 24-hour service, every hand goes up. When I ask how many want a tower next door, every hand goes down. So we all agree about this. Here's the deal. Our city has had this discussion for nearly 20 years. Because we've never really fully resolved it, it's now 2026, and we continue to experience spotty, inconsistent, and unreliable service. Now, 20 years ago, it was no big deal. It was just merely inconvenient because all of us had landlines. But now landlines are disappearing, and I read just yesterday that AT&T is discontinuing them altogether. Cell phones are now essential to our personal lives, our business lives, our professional lives, and to our personal and public safety. Consistently reliable coverage, I believe, in my opinion, is now a necessary component for public safety. So it's time for us to make some decisions. I'd like to make them all together. I want to be respectful for everyone's opinion. But I'd also like to clarify a couple of points. Some people, and I understand this, have expressed concern that unelected staff members will be making these decisions. And I understand why that worries people. But let's look at exactly what the circumstances are. These locations have been pre-approved by your elected representatives. Last year, the City Council, your elected representatives, approved the wireless master plan. And that plan identified more than 24 possible locations in Rancho Mirage that would provide the strongest coverage. It didn't say, let's build them there. It said these are the ideal locations. And there were public hearings on that wireless master plan where everyone had an opportunity to participate. Those locations were approved by the council, not by staff. What staff is now doing is carrying out the plan that we adopted by selecting which of these locations would best serve the city while also protecting neighborhood aesthetics. We structured it this way to avoid unnecessary delays. If we add yet another full cycle of approvals to the process on things that are already pre-approved, we lose another 9 months to a year. and our residents will continue to live with inadequate, spotty coverage. Let me repeat, the decision for selecting these locations was done by your elected officials, the City Council. I'd also like to put to rest something that I think needs to be addressed and for people to calm down about. The idea that the city staff would intentionally put an unattractive tower in a beautiful neighborhood is unfounded. I think everyone in this room can agree that Rancho Mirage's roads, landscaping, medians, and streetscapes are the most admired and the best in the Coachella Valley. Our public buildings are impeccable. Our parks and trails are beautiful and clean. Our staff has earned awards for their designs and implementation of beautiful public spaces. So those results that we can all agree on, which we all think are wonderful, they're created by the very same staff members who will be involved in this cell phone process. As the city manager said, the city council would never allow a structure that undermines the character of a neighborhood, and frankly, neither would the staff. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I couldn't have said it better myself. I've walked alongside with Mayor Pro Tem on this issue. Both of us reside at Del Webb. I used to live in the Tamarisk neighborhood. Sometimes cell phone coverage was sketchy there, especially if you go on the northeast side of Tamarisk. It's very challenging. And then I moved to Del Webb. It's like on the third side of the world. When I make a phone call or wish to make a phone call, I need to step outside on my patio. And that's okay. I made the decision to move there, and you deal with it. However, and as I've mentioned before, the city council members go to various communities. We give community updates. We love bringing information and accomplishments and discuss challenges that are before our residents. But every single time we go to a community update, whether it's at Del Webb or it's on the other side of the city, whether it's at Tamarisk or it's in Magnesia Falls Cove or Thunderbird, Lake Mirage, when are you going to do something about cell phone towers? 43, I believe that's the number, 43 cell phone tower permits were approved. The phone companies came to us, we approved them, and then they never moved forward on it. Still doesn't solve our problem. And this is over a period of years. But as Mayor Pro Tem has indicated on several occasions and at our community updates, it's not a matter of convenience at this point in time. It's a matter of necessity. As the woman who called in on the Zoom and was explaining her situation with her mother, it is about, in many instances, life and death. We have several residents over in Del Webb that have had challenges that couldn't get a 911 call through. We hear you, which is why when the city contracted with this consultant, it wasn't, can you just give us 4 to 6 spots that could give us maybe the optimum service? Give us something to choose from so that we have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C. Do I like cell phone towers on schools? No. As a mom, no, I wouldn't want cell phone towers on schools. Unfortunately, we're not part of the decision process on that. FCC, state, and school districts. Is it fair? No. Should laws be changed? Maybe. Yeah. Would we automatically go to a school district first or a school building? We're looking at what options would fit best with the neighborhood. Is there council oversight? You've had council oversight. Everything comes before us. At the Planning Commission hearing, I sat in the front row. A lot of the comments were very concerning about the public stating that this was a lack of transparency. When you have a public hearing, the first step is mailing out letters to the residents. And yes, and some residents, hold on just a second. Letters go out. For those that are seasonal residents, those letters are mailed to their preferred addresses as well. Do all residents get a letter? Planning Department made those arrangements in the city for mailing those letters. I know I didn't get a letter over at Del Webb. However, public hearing notice went out. Okay, that's the first step in transparency, the public hearing, which so many of you came to, and thank you for coming. It really means so much to us that you do come to a public hearing. We want to hear your voices, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. It helps us make informed decisions. Will it please everyone? We try, okay? This is another public hearing. We're doing the best that we can. We're going to be very thoughtful and very careful with our decisions. And we're doing the best that we can do with what we have. We have a lot of information and we have choices. The spots that were identified provide flexibility. And that's what we thought we're making the right decision in providing that flexibility for our residents. Okay? That's what we have.
Madam Mayor, are you ready for a motion?
Yes.
So before I make the motion, I want to say that this is one of those issues where you're almost damned if you do and damned if you don't. You cannot make all the people happy all of the time. We can only do our best. And I also want to say that I really thank Mayor Pro Tem Michael O'Keefe for his very, very good comments about this matter. Thank you, Michael. Okay, the motion. I move that the City Council find that the adoption of the ordinance has been reviewed in compliance with the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act and CEQA guidelines, and that adoption of the ordinance is categorically exempt from environmental review under the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15303 and 15332. And 2B, ordinance number next in order, amending section 17.32.040 of chapter 17.32 of the Title 17 of Rancho Mirage Municipal Code to streamline the enforcement process for wireless communication facilities as designated preferred locations, excluding the following properties located at the northeast corner of Frank Sinatra and DeVal Drive from the list of designated preferred locations. They are APNs 674-220-019, 674-220-022, 674-220-023, and 674-220-003, and that we also exempt the property at Whispering Waters.
Council member, that APN is 684-343-036.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Please vote.
Motion carries 3-0 with Councilmember Fromberg Edelstein and Weil recused.
Thank you. Council will now take a recess, 5-minute recess. It's 2:34. We'll continue on. Next item on the agenda is item number 7A, consideration of submitting a proposed transactions and use measure to Rancho Mirage voters at the November 3rd, 2026 statewide general election. And we will have Kofi Antobom, Director of Administrative Services, reporting on this item.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and council members. As it brings up my PowerPoint. Okay, thank you. The item before you is to consider submitting a proposed transaction and use tax measure, commonly referred to as a sales tax, to Rancho Mirage voters at the November 3rd, 2026 statewide general elections. So, the city of Rancho Mirage historically maintains balanced budgets and fiscally sound policies while providing public services, infrastructure maintenance, public safety, parks, and other municipal services. In the past few years, the city, like many other municipalities, have experienced increasing costs associated with public safety, services, infrastructure maintenance, insurance, labor costs, and many other costs. Fire and EMS services within the city, service requests have increased approximately 39%. Sheriff and fire service costs have increased by more than 56%. And insurance costs have more than doubled in 4 years. Specifically in the general fund, insurance costs over the last 4 years have increased 115%. The city of Rancho Mirage relies heavily on economically sensitive revenues, including transient occupancy tax, commonly referred to as TOT, and sales tax. These two revenue sources account for approximately half of the general fund's revenues. While these revenues provide significant benefits to the community, they are also sensitive to economic conditions, tourism trends, and consumer spending patterns. While the rising operational costs and current revenue patterns, with the rising operational costs and current revenue patterns, it is projected, as depicted on the screen, that expenditures would outgrow revenues by fiscal year 2028 just to maintain the current level of service. To preserve fiscal stability and address rising costs, several cost control measures have been implemented by the city, including reducing staffing levels over the last 3 years by approximately 11%, pursuing state and federal grant funding opportunities, and renegotiating contracts where possible. Spending priorities and operational efficiencies are continuously reviewed to control rising costs. Operational costs keep rising mainly because the city's significant cost drivers, which includes contractual services, insurance costs, are not controlled by the city or are not set by the city. Those are set by external factors or are determined by external factors. To address revenue gaps, municipalities either increase fees charged for providing services, which are mainly activity-based and fluctuate from year to year, pass local taxes, or a combination to generate additional revenues. During the city's budget process, fees charged for services provided by the city are reviewed, and when necessary, the fees are adjusted. Within the city of Rancho Mirage, the current sales tax rate of 7.75% is tied to the lowest rate in the Coachella Valley and County of Riverside. Of the 7.75% sales tax rate, 6% goes to the state, 0.75% goes to the county, and the city only receives 1% of that. As depicted on the screen, within the Coachella Valley, Rancho Mirage is tied with Indian Wells for the lowest sales tax rate. An estimated 75% of sales tax revenue generated within the city is paid by tourists and visitors rather than the residents of Rancho Mirage. One potential funding option available to the city is a locally controlled transactions and use tax, measure. The proposed measure would increase the city's sales tax rate by 1%, increasing it to a total sales tax rate from 7.75% to 8.75%. Staff estimates the measure would generate approximately $7.5 million annually in locally controlled revenue. With an estimated 75% of sales tax revenue generated within the city of Rancho Mirage currently paid by tourists and visitors rather than city residents, a substantial portion of the revenue generated by the proposed measure would be paid by individuals visiting, shopping, dining, and staying within the city. All revenues generated from the proposed measure will remain local and could not be transferred to another jurisdiction. So as part of the fiscal year 2026-2027 budget development and discussions, the city undertook several public outreach and information efforts, including town halls, presentations, and discussions with community organizations and stakeholder groups regarding city finances, municipal services, infrastructure needs, and long-term fiscal sustainability. The purpose of these outreach efforts was to provide information to the public regarding city services and revenues, and to obtain feedback regarding service priorities and future funding needs. So, in order to place the proposed measure before voters, local transaction laws or local measure laws require a supermajority vote from the governing body. So in our case, it will require a 4/5 vote to be able to refer this item to the voters for consideration. If the City Council approves placement of the measure on the November 3rd, 2026 statewide general election ballot, staff will work with the City Attorney and Riverside County Registrar of Voters to complete all required election procedures and filings. Also, the Council will be asked to authorize preparation and submission of the ballot arguments in favor of the measure as permitted by the California Elections Code. It must be noted that if this is placed before the voters, the proposed measure would require approval by simple majority of voters voting on the measure. One of the things I want to emphasize is that this is solely in the hands of the residents or the voters within the city of Rancho Mirage. And so once it's referred, if it passes, then this can become a new revenue source within the city. That concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Kofi. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments, please, on this item?
Yes, Brad Anderson.
Hello, Brad Anderson, City of Rancho Mirage, speaking on this next item, 7A, I believe, or 7B, 7A, I think. I'm opposed to this. I have attended 2 of the 3 study sessions that you provided, and the third one was a Zoom, and I wasn't allowed to be access on that. And why, I don't know to this day. The city... We'll talk about transparency before, and my fear is if the city has more revenue, the less transparent it's going to be with that revenue, just like they are now, just like you are now. So I know that's bold, but that's how I see it. I would recommend that any citizen look through the demands when they come available, and you can see the rapid, excessive spending that the city and the council does. So I'm opposed to this. The staff report brought up some interesting points. I was going to comment on them if I could remember them. And you did the meetings. I spoke about that. What else was there? Oh, insurance rates. Insurance doubled, and going to a few of the insurance meetings that most of the insurance I think we're talking about is through government agencies, and so that's unique to this government agency, and it's something that I couldn't get or another private citizen couldn't get, and I'm kind of concerned if those are doubling, why? And I mean, I go through the demands. I see Riverside Motorcycle Police Unit or the motorcycle unit has a lot of repairs, and I don't know if it gets wrecked a lot or it gets serviced a lot. Is that turned into insurance? How is that process? I'm not asking a question. I'm just bringing that as an example. Meaning that are we actually using this insurance, or are we just paying for it? And if we're just paying for it, let's just continue paying for it and not use it. I think the city has enough resources not to do that. Again, that's an aspect I wanted to address. What else was this? 1%. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. I guess I'm against this, of course. The 1%. I'm just trying to think back. I'm sorry about this. I'm just absolutely opposed to this, and I'm sorry that I can't think of the other excuses for that. Again, the city. I don't want the city to have that responsibility. The citizens. I'm sorry. You said 70% of the tax will be paid, or I think it was around 70% will be taxed from will be paid from other entities, and I don't think that's true. And if it is, that's really an unethical thing to do for this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I see no additional speakers.
Thank you. Opening up to council comments.
Mayor, I'll make a very generalized comment that anyone here in the audience, both here in presence today or viewing this on the screen, can relate to their own household as far as expenses are concerned. We all are facing increased costs, whether it be insurance, transportation, etc. A city is not immune either. The difference is, of course, how do you make up for this deficit and what can be done? So that's why this is being presented today for the voting public to decide. And as I say, each of us can reflect upon how this impacts us individually throughout the year. So with that in mind, I'm sure the public will come to their own conclusion. But when you look at the graph, and you notice that Rancho Mirage is still, at this moment, tied for the lowest sales tax in the valley. That speaks well for how disciplined we have been in the management of our budget. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
I do, Madam Mayor. Thank you. So as I see it, there are 2 votes and 2 issues. And it is the case that in addition to Mr. Anderson, we have heard from other people who have said that they think that there should be a no vote today. I don't think there should be a no vote today. I think there should be a yes vote today. And the reason is that if you wish to vote no, you'll have every opportunity to do that if this passes and if this does become a ballot measure in November. And if you think that you should vote no on a tax increase in November, you should do that. And for those who wish to vote yes on a tax measure, if it comes to the ballot in November, they should be able to do that. So this is a fairness measure today. It's a fairness measure to give the people of Rancho Mirage the right to vote yes or no on whether they think this measure should pass or not. And so that's what I think this is today. This is simply allowing the people of Rancho Mirage to tell us what they think we should do when we have been clear with the people of Rancho Mirage that we do face some budget issues in the future. I'm going to give you one example of a couple of budget issues. One is that that we do know from Public Works that we need to spend about $17 million on road upgrades in the city in the coming few years. That's a lot of money. And we need to find a way to do that. So I think the people of the city of Rancho Mirage are pretty pleased with the quality of the roads in this city. And I think most of us know when we're driving on a Rancho Mirage road. And I think most of the people in this city want us to continue to maintain that road quality. And the next issue that I'll talk about for just a moment is public safety. I talked about that earlier in the meeting today in my council comments. Well, staff and Kofi today has made some estimates about what will happen with the public safety budget in the future. Today, public safety represents about 50% of the revenues of this city. That's how much we spend on public safety. Well, the public safety budget is projected to increase if it continues at the same rate over the next few years. It's projected to increase to about $32 million in about 3 years. Well, now revenues in the next fiscal year are projected to be up about $39 million. And they're expected to increase to maybe about $42 million in that same 3-year period. So if we don't do something, if we continue on the same path, what is likely to happen, according to staff's estimates, is that our revenues will be $42 million, but our public safety budget, will be $32 million. That's no longer 50% of our budget, it's 75%. We have to do something, and we have to know what the residents of the city want us to do. Do you want us to raise additional revenues, or do you want us to cut expenses? We can do one or the other. We can't do both. We need you to tell us. And that's what this vote is all about today. It's fairness for the voters in this city to tell us what they want us to do if we do place this item on the ballot in November. And I'm in favor of placing this item on the ballot in November. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
I think that this is actually not about Rancho Mirage today. I think this is about Rancho Mirage tomorrow. Speaking as somebody young by Rancho Mirage standards, living in the city of Rancho Mirage,
that hurt.
I appreciate the quality of life. It's one of the reasons that I've chosen this as the city where I reside after living in Palm Springs as a young person with my parents. It is because of the quality of life in this city, the quality of the roads, the quality of the public safety, the quality of the services that the city funds and provides. And I don't want to see anything jeopardize those choices. And I think this is about an investment in our future, more so than it is about the investment of today, so that this council doesn't end up having to make choices that some of our other city counterparts are making right now in regards to their revenue and their expenses, and cities across California. So that's why I am in support of putting it on the ballot. And I think the most important thing is this is not my ultimate decision. This is, as it is as a voter in the city of Rancho Mirage, but it is really the voters' decision. And I believe that that's where they'll give us their position and authority very clearly in November. So thank you.
Are there any other comments?
I agree with everything that's been said. And I want to acknowledge the foresight of our staff and past city councils who have built the healthy reserves that make Rancho Mirage the success and stable city that it is today. That's the reason that Rancho Mirage is stable and is able to provide quality of life issues that our residents expect. It's why people choose to live here. And we have the lowest sales tax rate in the Coachella Valley, as has been mentioned. And what this measure does is simply gives Rancho Mirage voters the opportunity to decide whether a modest adjustment to the sales tax rate is the right path for maintaining essential services and safeguarding our community's standard of living. That decision belongs to the voters. That said, I would like to address briefly a couple of emails and comments that I've received from people suggesting or demanding that we eliminate all funding for community programs in order to balance the budget. Do we need to tighten our belts? Yes. But fiscal responsibility does not mean dismantling the programs that make Rancho Mirage special. Budgeting for cultural and social programs is a small part of our budget. I think it's around 2%. It is essential to who we are. Can we make cuts? Yes. And do we? Yes. But I want you to put on your thinking caps for just a moment and consider the following. Which of these items would you like to cut out of Rancho Mirage? Free reading programs at the library. Free computer use at the library. Should we end musical programs with organizations that provide scholarships for students? Should we stop recognizing high school athletes who win championships? You know that we're the only city in America whose public library has its own observatory. So should we eliminate observatory tours for students who've never even seen a telescope? Do we need citizens on patrol that help law enforcement? Should we withdraw support from organizations that fight hunger, homelessness, diseases, or animal cruelty? We could end programs that help our seniors or our business community. We could walk away from housing programs that attract doctors and medical professionals. Why don't we discontinue the Writers' Festival? It brings in more than 1,000 visitors to our resorts and restaurants. It generates millions of dollars of revenue. We could forget about the Children's Discovery Museum that uniquely serves families throughout the region. And do we really need the Tolerance Education Center to teach us about the evils of anti-Semitism? I think you get my point. We could eliminate all of this and still not make a dent in the structural changes that the expenses are representing. Let's be absolutely clear. We could eliminate it, but it is not who we are. Our commitments are to safety, to infrastructure, to fiscal responsibility, to culture, to compassion, and to opportunity. And that's the reasons people choose Rancho Mirage. These are the hallmarks of our quality of life. They are the pillars of our identity as a community. When we invest in these programs, we are not wasting money. We are protecting the values that make Rancho Mirage a community of excellence. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I have no further comment. I think you've all covered the gamut there. All right, may I have a motion, please?
I'll be happy to make the motion, Mayor. I would make a motion that the City Council adopt resolution number 2026, next in order, calling for the placement of a general tax measure on the ballot for the November 3, 2026 general municipal election for the submission to the qualified voters of an ordinance to enact a transaction and use tax at the rate of 1 cent. 2, adopt resolution number 2026, next in order, providing for the filing of a primary and rebuttal arguments, setting rules for the filing of written arguments regarding a city measure to be submitted at the November 3, 2026 general municipal election. 3, adopt resolution number 2026, next in order, requesting the Board of Supervisors of the County of Riverside to consolidate a general municipal election to be held on November 3, 2026, with a statewide general election to be held on that date pursuant to Section 10403 of the Election Code. And 4, consider designating a number of members of the City Council to author and primary arguments for or against the ballot measure. I also will make a motion to designate the mayor of the Rancho Mirage City Council to author and file primary arguments for the ballot measure on behalf of the Rancho Mirage City Council. Thank you, Mayor.
I'll second.
And if I may, for the record, I believe the motion read listed as Councilmember Weil as motion 4 replaces the motion that the statement he read in his initial with reference to number 4.
Yeah,
Yes.
acceptable.
Please vote.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next item. City participation in County of Riverside's Urban County Program, Community Block Development Grants, also known as CDBG, Home Investment Partnership Program, and Emergency Solutions Grant, ESG. Marcus Alleman, our housing manager, will report on this item.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor Mulatto, council members, and staff. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development provides annual grants on a formula basis to states, counties, and cities for the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG program, Emergency Solutions Grant, ESG program, and Home Investment Partnerships, HOME program. The CDBG program aims at developing viable urban communities by providing decent housing, a suitable living environment, and by expanding economic opportunities, principally for low and moderate income persons. The ESG program's focus is to assist people to quickly regain stability in permanent housing after experiencing a housing crisis and/or homelessness. The HOME program helps fund a wide range of activities, including building, buying, and/or rehabilitating affordable housing for rent or home ownership. Applications for funds can occur by applying directly to the state or by applying in cooperation with the county. In June 2026, the city was contacted by the County of Riverside to offer an opportunity to participate in their Urban County Program for federal fiscal years 2027, 2028, and 2029. Participation in the Urban County Program would authorize the county to receive and administer the city's CDBG, ESG, and home funds that would otherwise go to the state. Application through the county instead of directly to the state would clear any administrative obstacles and provide a more streamlined process. If the city does not participate in the county's program, application through the state would be required to access any grant funds. Participation in the Urban County Program allows the city to produce local programs for its residents by utilizing the allocated funds and allows the city to benefit from access to established programs or established county programs that include homelessness assistance prevention programs, home rehabilitation program for low-income residents, down payment assistance, and gap funding for development of affordable housing. Please note that the 3-year participation term originally reflected in the fiscal years of July 1st, 2027 through June 30th, 2030. After the staff report was posted, the county notified city staff that their term was revised to October 1st, 2026 through September 30th, 2029. Accordingly, staff recommends that the City Council adopt Resolution Number 2026, next in line, authorizing the city's participation in the County of Riverside's Community Development Block Grant, Emergency Solutions Grant, and Home Urban County programs for federal fiscal years 2027, 2028, and 2029, with the revised participation term of October 1st, 2026 through September 30th, 2029. Thank you. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Marcus. Madam Clerk?
Madam Mayor, I have no requests to speak.
Very good. Are there any council comments?
I'll make the motion.
Very good.
I move to adopt resolution number 2026 next in order, authorizing participation in the County of Riverside's Urban County Program for the fiscal years of 2027-28, 2028-29, 2029-30, and approving the cooperation agreement for the Community Development Block Grant, Home Investment Partnership Program, and Emergency Solutions Grant for fiscal years 2027 to 2028, 2028 to 2029, and 2029 to 2030.
I'll second that.
Before we go that far, there was a supplemental recommendation based on information we received from the county after the release of the staff report. So on your screen is the amended recommendation from staff to align with the dates provided by the county that was subsequent to the release of the staff report.
Can I rescind my prior motion and make a new motion? Okay. I move that the City Council adopt Resolution Number 2026, next in line, authorizing the city's participation in the County of Riverside's Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, Emergency Solutions Grant, ESG, and Home Urban County programs for the federal fiscal years 2027, 2028, and 2029, with the revised participation term of October 1st, 2026 through September 30th, 2029.
And I will continue to second that motion.
Thank you.
Motion carries 5-0.
It's my prerogative to change my mind.
Next item, 7C, documentation and reimbursement of general fund advance for successor agency enforceable obligation payment and approval of loan agreement between the City of Rancho Mirage and successor agency to the Rancho Mirage Redevelopment Agency. Kofi Antenbaum, Director of Administrative Services, will be reporting on this item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Pursuant to Assembly Bill number 1X26, redevelopment agencies in California were dissolved on February 1, 2012. To wind down the activities of the former Rancho Mirage Redevelopment Agency, the successor agency to the Rancho Mirage Redevelopment Agency was created and vested with all authority, rights, powers, duties, and obligations of the former redevelopment agency. To ensure obligations of the former agency are paid timely, the California Department of Finance, under the dissolution laws, established a process through which funds are made available to pay the obligations. Annually, and no later than February 1, successor agencies are required to submit a recognized obligations payment schedule, popularly known as ROPS, listing all the obligations of the former agency that are due in the next fiscal year to the Department of Finance for review and approval. The ROPS must first be approved by the Successor Agency Board and the Riverside Countywide Oversight Board before it is submitted to the Department of Finance. Once approved by the Department of Finance, the County of Riverside Tax Collector's Office is authorized to release funds to the Successor Agency for payment of the obligations due. In the event there is insufficient funds to pay obligations due, the city, serving as the successor agency, can advance funds to pay the obligations to avoid defaulting and/or incurring unnecessary costs. Such advance is then submitted on a future ROPS for reimbursement. The item before you is to approve a loan agreement between the city and the successor agency for an advance provided to pay an obligation that was due. Upon approval, the loan agreement will be included on the 2027-2028 ROPS for reimbursement. And that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Yes, we have Speaker Brad Anderson.
Thank you again, Brad Anderson, currently in the city of Rancho Mirage. Wanted to speak on this item, 7C. I did write some comments and I submitted them. Hopefully you received them in regards to this item. And most everything I'll be speaking on today. But I guess I called it a blunder in my written comments. And the staff report, the River staff report did mention the sums related to this, and I don't have it written down, but I believe it's quite a bit of money that you're asking to be loaned. And I did make a recommendation in my letter that maybe some type of finance committee may be called for in this matter. I know other special districts like the Mosquito Vector District, they have a subcommittee for everything. So I'm sure you probably have a finance committee, but maybe something that can be Brown Act related so the public can attend and maybe have some input. There are some smart people, especially in Indian Wells, where the sales tax is low. So anyway, that's just a suggestion, and I'll be for non-agenda public comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Madam Mayor, I see no additional speakers.
Are there any council comments? With that, may I ask for, I'm sorry, did you?
No, I'll make the motion.
Okay, great.
I move that, number one, we adopt resolution number 2026 next in order, authorizing the execution and delivery of a debt service loan agreement between the City of Rancho Mirage and the successor agency to the Rancho Mirage Redevelopment Agency to memorialize and repay an enforceable obligation of the successor agency, making certain determinations relating thereto and authorizing certain other action in connection therewith. And two, adopt resolution number 2026 SA next in order, authorizing the execution and delivery of a debt service loan agreement between the City of Rancho Mirage and the successor agency to the Rancho Mirage Redevelopment Agency to memorialize and repay an enforceable obligation of the successor agency, making certain determinations relating thereto and authorizing certain other action in connection therewith.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion carries 5-0.
Very good. Next item on the agenda, non-agenda public comments. This is an opportunity for the public to speak on issues not on the agenda for a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. And before I turn it over to our city attorney, I just wanted to mention for those individuals who are new to our city council via Zoom, this is a wonderful opportunity. If you have any questions for the city council that's not, as we mentioned, not on the agenda, but also so you know, if you were to ask us questions, it's not customary for us to answer or respond to those questions. So if you hear silence, that's why. Very good. Mr. City Attorney? I mean, well, he was going to say
I'll
something.
refer it to City Clerk.
Okay, very good.
Madam Mayor, our first speaker is Maddie Bowe.
Hello.
Hello, good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Maddie Bogue, and as the Mayor coincidentally alluded to earlier, I am the new representative for the City of Rancho Mirage for Southern California Edison.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so I just wanted to take a couple minutes to formally introduce myself. I have left my cards with the City Clerk, so if you all do not have my information, that is readily available there. While I'm new to the role, I am in no way new to the region. I spent the last 5 years as the Director of Public Affairs for OPR Communications and have served in multiple roles with the California State Senate, including for State Senator Melissa Melendez for the Coachella Valley. So it's a pleasure to formally introduce myself this afternoon, and I look forward to working with you all. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. We look forward to working with you.
Patrick Lowry.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You are a frustrating group of people. Mr. O'Keefe, all your comments about what we do and why those dollars have to be spent from the budget for the library, for this, and that, that's well and good. That's not what the dollars are at. The dollars are in your employee medical plan, where you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars you don't need to be. Stop buying $60,000 cars. Start giving $2 million to Eisenhower. Stop the discretionary spending that's foolish. That's what you need to do. Get professional. Understand how to manage things. You are frustrating. There's a phrase in economics: feed the beast, starve the beast. You've heard of that. Starving the beast isn't going to work here. We're stuck with this 1% because you're just screwing up. But once you feed the beast, it doesn't stop coming back to get more. So you won't stop because you won't change your habits. So we're stuck. This is a conundrum, a quandary, whatever all the fancy terms are. You're not good at what you do. And I know the voters now are stuck with having to vote yes on 1%. Nonsense. And this public safety issue is so terribly important. And I want to make a comment about this because it frustrates me. I and many other people in this community 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, sorry that I can't nail that down, were the ones who brought it to the forefront. Not you, Mr. Downs, people like me, who wanted to see public safety paid attention to. Okay? So stop taking that kind of credit. Now, Again, back to this issue of budget. Look at this budget. You can look at the budget that was posted in your packet. Item after item you can take off of there. Discipline yourself like I have to because of a changing economy. Anyway, I wish I could say I appreciate you. I do not. And I hope to see that in this new vote, we get one or two new persons here who understand how to manage money. I know how to manage money. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Susan Ragsdale.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Susan Ragsdale. I've been here many times over the years, constantly pleading my case for justice. And the reason I'm still doing this is because the injuries inflicted upon me. Is that my fault? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, everyone. Forgive me. I thought I had the volume down. Anyway, the thing is, aside from years of extreme traumatic stress and the gross negligence of not paying any attention to my pleads for help against hostile environment, harassment, terrible bullying I experienced, and then to be evicted for harassment when I was obviously the victim, I lost who I am. I lost myself. And not only that, but my granddaughter will be 8 in 2 days, and I have not seen her since November 2021. And that's because my daughter could not handle the distress of me being fraudulently evicted, when it would have been so easy for her attorney husband in Minneapolis simply to pick up the phone and call Marcus Aleman and say, wait a minute, my mother-in-law has been complaining about bullies for 3.5 years. She doesn't have an evil bone in her body. She's never hostile or angry or threatening in any way. And I already wrote the manager a letter asking for a reasonable accommodation a year ago. Okay? That would have saved me. Instead, I'm partially disabled, I have to say, because I have had housing issues in the past before I was living in affordable housing. 2.5 years, I've had quite an experience, and I spent most of my time during that period in Rancho Mirage, which I considered my home, and I went to the library and I worked on my sacred artworks. I kept on thinking, I know if I can make enough of these and I can have them printed and then I can have a show, that I'll be able to get out of poverty and I won't be homeless anymore. So you can see there is a somewhat of a housing issue with me. I plan to make a newsletter. I plan to have it printed before season starts on October 1st. I plan to make 3,000 copies of them, and in it, I will describe exactly what happened to me and the fact that this is due to mental illness on the city council led by Ted Weil. Ted Weil, I believe, I won't come out and say it, but I think he has dementia. He has always been delusional about me, highly subject to Hagerman's hogwash, which is completely, I bet my character has been assassinated here.
Susan, can you please
Is it
wrap
time?
up your comments? It is time.
Okay, I'm making this newsletter if it's the last thing I do, and you will all be impacted for sure. How rude. Totally rude.
Wally Melendez.
Comments.
Totally rude.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mayor. Before I start on my regular spiel, I want to throw in that AT&T and Verizon, and I think somebody mentioned a third company, telecom company, they won't put up towers if they don't have the customers. That's the word of the day. Concerning the rogue person in the Oval Office, the Congress resolved that the ICE goons with their masks and no body cameras and other armor and weapons could not be making traffic stops. The rogue person in the Oval Office, which has started a war overseas in the Middle East without Congress authorization, rescinded that order by the Congress that the ICE goons have no authority to make traffic stops. He rescinded that order from Congress with an EO, executive order. That is the dirtiest thing by the dirtiest person in the Oval Office that has happened. I want to make a suggestion to the mayor that in this chamber, when somebody recites the Pledge of Allegiance, should include the Constitution of the United States, like this. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and the Constitution of the United States of America. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brad Anderson.
Hi, Brad Anderson. I think somebody left the thumb drive here. Okay. Or maybe it's been there. Anyway, this is a non-agenda public comment. I just wanted to speak. I won't, I won't beat up on you near as bad as everyone else. But I do have a few things to say. I love elections. I think if I could vote on everything, I would. And we got to have the opportunity to do it. And that's for city council people, special elections, and I'm all for that. But there's a cost associated with that, and I don't know what the cost is for this next special election. But the prior one was quoted at $114,000, and the one before that was $70,000. So that's important because that's city resources being spent. But I think it's let the voters decide on matters that affects everybody. And this council is very predictable. I don't know why I even come up here, but hopefully somebody hears me. And I guess I gotta make better notes. I can't read my handwriting. But anyway, streamlining projects, and that's fine. But the public, you're removing aspects of public involvement in these public meetings, and pretty soon the public won't be invited. So hopefully it never comes to that. But I just do better, and I will do better too. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I see no additional speakers.
Very good. With that, we'll close public comments, and we will now, we're going to recess to closed session. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll be convening into closed session for the item listed before you on the agenda as 9A. 1, conference with legal counsel, potential initiation of litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4, one potential case.
We've now returned from closed session, and I will ask the city attorney for any reportable actions.
Thank you, Mayor. No reportable action taken today.
This meeting is now adjourned at 4:30 p.m.